AITA for refusing to let my in-laws take over my newborn's first birthday party, even though they claim it's for the family. I, 30F, recently had my first child, a baby boy named Noah. My husband, James, 32M, and I are both first-time parents, and we've been navigating parenthood together. We've been very hands-on, trying to create a nurturing and personal environment for Noah. From the beginning, James and I agreed that major events, like his first birthday, should reflect our vision and values as parents rather than just pleasing family members. When Noah's first birthday started approaching, we began planning a small gathering at our home with about 20 guests, including close friends and immediate family. Our plan was simple: a small theme party with age-appropriate activities, some snacks, a small cake, and a few decorations. I wanted it to be intimate and low stress so that Noah could actually enjoy it, and so we wouldn't be overwhelmed. About 3 weeks ago, my mother-in-law, Linda, started messaging me and James with her ideas. She suggested a large venue, catering, a professional photographer, a clown, and even a magician. She also insisted on a grand theme that I didn't want, something extravagant and over the top. James and I tried to politely thank her for her suggestions, but explained that we wanted a small and intimate celebration. We even offered to have her help with minor things like decorating or baking a small cake, but she kept pushing for more control. The real conflict started when she said she wanted to handle the guest list. Originally, we had decided on 20 people, mostly close family and a few friends. She started suggesting dozens of extended relatives, family friends we've never met, and even co-workers. When we explained that our home couldn't accommodate that many people and that we want a smaller party, she accused us of being selfish and excluding family. She also started hinting that if we didn't let her handle it, she might not attend. I tried to compromise multiple times. I told her she could invite 1 or 2 extended family members if she really wanted, and she could contribute by bringing a dish or helping with decorations. But she refused to limit the guest list and said she wanted to control every detail of the party. She also began making passive-aggressive comments to James, saying things like, "I hope your wife knows how to plan a proper first birthday," and "It's sad when parents don't include family in milestones." Things escalated when she began sending me long emails detailing what she thought should happen, including specific seating arrangements, what Noah should wear, and even how the cake should be cut. I told her that we appreciated her input, but that it was our child and our celebration, and we wanted to plan it ourselves. She accused me of being controlling and cruel, and said I was denying family the chance to celebrate with Noah. She also began pressuring James, saying he should convince me to let her plan the party. James is fully on my side, but he admitted he feels awkward because his mother is very persistent and guilt-tripping him. I suggested we meet her halfway in small, non-essential ways, but she refused, insisting she should have full control. She even said that she paid for the first wedding and baby shower, so she deserves to plan this one. I reminded her that we paid for our wedding ourselves, and we hosted our own baby shower, so there's no financial precedent giving her authority over this event. Some of our friends and other family members have suggested letting her plan part of it to keep the peace, saying it's just one party, and that refusing might create tension. I've thought about it, but I feel strongly that this is our child and our home, and giving in to her demands would make the party stressful for us, compromise our vision, and likely create resentment. I've already made clear that I'm happy to let her contribute in ways that don't take control, but she sees this as insufficient. The tension has affected communication in the family. Linda now sends subtle passive-aggressive messages, makes remarks at family gatherings, and occasionally texts me directly questioning our decisions. I feel stressed and guilty, even though I know I'm trying to protect our boundaries. James and I have discussed having a frank conversation with her, explaining that while we value her involvement, the final decisions are ours as parents. I also worry that if we give in, she will expect full control over future milestones, like Noah's second birthday or school events. It's important to me and James that we establish these boundaries now, so that our child grows up in a stable and respectful environment, rather than one dominated by other family members' opinions. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my in-laws take over my newborn's first birthday party, even though they claim it's for the family, and are upset that we aren't letting them control the event. Character count, 6,528. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow and motivates me to keep creating more great content. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss a new upload. Thanks so much for your support. AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé stay at my house after he embarrassed me in front of my entire family. I, 28F, have always been close to my sister, 31F, though we've had our fair share of disagreements. She's been dating her fiancé, 33M, for about 2 years now, and honestly, I wasn't thrilled with him from the beginning. He can be charming when he wants to be, but he also has this tendency to make everything about himself, often in really subtle but obvious ways. I tried to give him a fair chance, but there were a few red flags I noticed early on. Last month, my sister and I planned a family reunion at my parents' house. My parents live in a small town, and my house is about 15 minutes away. The reunion was supposed to be at my place because it's bigger and more convenient. I spent weeks cleaning, rearranging furniture, and cooking. I even bought a bunch of snacks and decorations to make it feel festive. I was genuinely excited. A week before the reunion, my sister called me and asked if her fiancé could stay at my house the night before the event. She said it would be easier than driving back and forth, and that he had a long flight coming from out of state. I was hesitant because my house is small, and I usually keep things private and organized. But I told her fine, he could stay as long as he respected the space. The day he arrived, things started off okay, but by the evening, it had gone downhill. I had been preparing appetizers in the kitchen, and he insisted on helping, despite me saying I had it covered. Normally, I wouldn't care, but he was constantly critiquing my cooking, loudly and in front of everyone. He called my homemade dip slightly amateurish and suggested I should try something more sophisticated. My parents and sister were there, and I could feel everyone's eyes on me. I tried to laugh it off, but it just made me more frustrated. Then, he moved on to my living room. I had set up a small area for a slideshow of family photos. He decided it would be fun to enhance it by rearranging the photos without asking me. He even swapped out a couple of my grandmother's pictures with some of his vacation photos. When I confronted him, he shrugged and said, "I thought everyone would like a fresh perspective." At this point, I was fuming silently, but I didn't want to make a huge scene in front of my parents. The final straw came during dinner. I had spent hours preparing a meal that I thought would please everyone. When we sat down, he loudly complained that he didn't like one of the dishes and wouldn't even try it. Then he started talking about how he doesn't really eat typical family meals and proceeded to give unsolicited advice on how to improve everything from the seasoning to the plating. My parents looked a little uncomfortable, my sister rolled her eyes, and I finally just snapped. I told him to leave my house. Not politely. I told him he was not welcome to stay there, and that if he couldn't behave, he needed to find somewhere else for the night. My sister freaked out. She started yelling at me, saying I was overreacting, that it was just a harmless critique, and that I was ruining the reunion. I tried to explain that it wasn't just this one thing. It was a pattern of behavior, and I felt disrespected in my own home. My sister eventually convinced him to leave and spend the night at a nearby hotel. The rest of the reunion went okay, but the tension was palpable. Since then, my sister has been sending me texts about how I humiliated her fiancé and that I need to learn to be more accommodating. She even said my parents think I was too harsh, though when I talked to them privately, they said they understood why I was upset. Here's the thing. I don't dislike my sister's fiancé personally. I just have very strong boundaries, especially in my own home. I feel like he deliberately disrespected those boundaries. I also feel like my sister is refusing to see how inappropriate his behavior was, instead framing it as me being unwelcoming or mean. So Reddit, AITA for kicking out my sister's fiancé when he was being rude in my own house? AITA for ruining my sister's wedding by refusing to wear a dress she picked for me? This is going to be long, but I'll try to lay it out clearly. I, 28F, have a younger sister, Emma, 25F. Growing up, we were very close, but as adults, things have gotten complicated. Emma has always been the planner type, and I've always been more laid back, sometimes to a fault. She got engaged about a year ago to her fiancé, Mark, 27M, and immediately started planning a very formal, very traditional wedding. When she first asked me to be a bridesmaid, I was genuinely honored. I love my sister, and I wanted to support her on her big day. Emma sent me a link to the dress she had picked out. I didn't think much of it at first, but when I saw the dress, I was immediately uncomfortable. It was a very tight, strapless, metallic gold gown that was clearly designed to make a statement. I told her I liked the color, but that I was worried about the fit because I wasn't comfortable in strapless dresses and I didn't really wear metallics. She brushed it off, saying I just needed to own it and that it would look amazing in pictures. I tried it on anyway, thinking maybe it wouldn't be so bad. It was worse than I expected. The dress clung in all the wrong places. It made me feel exposed, and honestly, I just couldn't see myself walking down the aisle in it. I told her I appreciated her choice, but I didn't feel comfortable in it. She got visibly upset and said I was being dramatic and that I was ruining her vision for the wedding. I tried to compromise by asking if we could find a similar dress in a fabric I was comfortable in, or maybe a style that had straps or was less shiny. She refused. According to her, bridesmaids had to wear the exact dress, exactly how she wanted it, or not at all. I started looking for alternatives. I thought about buying the dress and getting it altered, but alterations couldn't fix how uncomfortable I felt in the strapless, metallic material. I realized I couldn't do it, so I told her I would step down as a bridesmaid if she insisted on me wearing that dress. That's when the drama started. She accused me of trying to steal attention from her, of being selfish, and of making her day about me. I tried to explain that I didn't want to ruin her day, but I also couldn't be miserable in a dress for several hours, especially for pictures that would last forever. She said I was being unreasonable and that I was letting everyone down. A week before the wedding, she cornered me in front of our parents and asked me to think about family and sisterly love and wear the dress anyway. I got defensive, and I told her I couldn't do it, that I wasn't trying to hurt her, but I needed to respect my own comfort. My parents, who were trying to stay neutral, said something along the lines of, just suck it up, it's one day. I felt trapped and angry. I wanted to support my sister, but I also didn't want to look back at the day in regret or embarrassment. The day of the wedding, I decided to show up in a different dress that I felt comfortable in. I wore a simple, elegant navy dress that wasn't attention-grabbing, but wasn't the metallic gold gown she had chosen. Emma saw me as soon as I arrived and completely lost it. She yelled at me in front of the wedding party and some guests, saying I had disrespected her, humiliated her, and ruined everything she planned. I tried to explain calmly that I loved her and supported her, but I couldn't wear a dress that made me feel so exposed. She ignored me and walked away crying. Mark tried to intervene, but it didn't help. Throughout the ceremony and reception, Emma barely spoke to me. Some of the guests noticed the tension, and a few whispered about it. My parents were frustrated with me, saying I should have just worn the dress. One of my aunts even told me I was selfish and childish for refusing. Meanwhile, other friends privately came up to me and said they completely understood why I didn't want to wear that dress, and that it looked uncomfortable. Mark's mom told me diplomatically that she wished things had worked out differently, but understood my position. After the wedding, Emma refused to talk to me for a few weeks. When she finally did, she said she couldn't forgive me for upstaging her and ignoring her wishes, and that our relationship might never be the same. I tried to explain my point of view again, but she only got angrier. I felt incredibly guilty, but I also felt like I had stood up for myself in a situation that was literally forcing me to choose between my comfort and someone else's aesthetic preferences. I was happy to support her in other ways. I helped with invitations, decorations, and even gave a big toast, but apparently that didn't matter. Now, several months later, our relationship is strained. Emma's friends are divided. Some think I was being rude and selfish, and others think she was too controlling and unrealistic. I still love my sister, but I don't know if she will ever forgive me. I feel like I did the right thing for myself, but everyone else seems to think I was in the wrong. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to wear the dress my sister picked for me, and showing up in something I was comfortable in instead. Character count 6,342. Would you like me to draft a second one with a slightly more dramatic twist that could hit viral Reddit appeal? AITA for refusing to pay for my cousin's wedding photographer after she said I owe her because I didn't attend her engagement party? I, 31F, have a cousin, Megan, 30F, who I've been close to since childhood. We were particularly close growing up, spending summers together and celebrating birthdays, but in the past few years, our relationship has become more distant. I moved to a different city for work, and our interactions have become sporadic. Megan recently got engaged, and I couldn't attend her engagement party due to work obligations and travel limitations. I sent a heartfelt card and gift instead, and spoke to her on the phone to congratulate her. Fast forward a few months, Megan asked me to help out with her wedding, specifically by paying for the wedding photographer. She explained that she found a photographer she really liked, but couldn't afford the deposit, and asked if I could cover the cost. The amount she asked was not trivial. It was over $1,500. I was shocked because I had assumed our contributions to each other's celebrations would be more modest and voluntary, not framed as an obligation. I told Megan that I couldn't pay for the photographer. I explained that I had already contributed in ways that I could manage, including sending gifts, helping with small planning advice, and supporting her emotionally. I offered to help her research other photographers, find discounts, or even help her negotiate a payment plan, but I couldn't cover the cost outright. Megan became very upset and said that I was selfish and not supporting her big day. She also told me that I owe her because I didn't attend her engagement party, implying that my absence had created a debt that I now needed to repay. I explained again that I had valid reasons for not attending and had tried to celebrate with her in other ways. She responded that my excuses didn't matter and that family should step up, regardless of circumstances. After that, she began sending passive-aggressive texts and long emails detailing how disappointed she was, how much this photographer meant to her, and how every cousin is chipping and accept me. She even brought our mutual relatives into the conversation, sharing her frustration and implying that I was being unreasonable. My parents and other family members have started subtly pressuring me, saying I should just pay to avoid drama. I feel caught between wanting to support my cousin and not being financially manipulated. I have my own financial responsibilities, mortgage, student loans, and daily living expenses, and giving $1,500 would strain my budget significantly. I also feel that her framing of this as something I owe her is unfair and puts me in a position where I will be financially responsible for a decision I had little input in. I've thought about partial contributions or smaller ways to help, like covering part of the photographer's deposit or helping with travel costs for the photographer. However, Megan rejected these suggestions, saying it wouldn't be enough and that she needed the full amount to secure her preferred vendor. I also worry that giving in would set a precedent for future financial expectations, as she has a history of asking family members for help with expensive items, often framing it as a moral obligation. Some of our mutual friends have said that I'm justified in refusing, and that families shouldn't be forced into financial commitments. Others say that weddings are special occasions, and helping should sometimes be about generosity rather than obligation. I feel strongly about boundaries, but the situation has become stressful because my cousin has started spreading the narrative that I'm being unkind and unsupportive. Adding to the tension, Megan has hinted that she might limit my role in the wedding, such as not giving me a spot in the ceremony or asking me not to participate in certain events because she feels hurt. This has made me feel guilty, but I know that participating under resentment or financial pressure isn't healthy for me or for the relationship in the long term. I've tried to explain to her that there are many ways to contribute to a wedding beyond paying large sums of money and that my support is genuine, even if it's not financial. She has dismissed these points, saying that emotional support doesn't pay for photographers. I'm starting to feel anxious about family gatherings because I know this issue will be brought up repeatedly, and I'm concerned about being cast as the villain for standing my ground. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to pay for my cousin's wedding photographer after she said I owe her because I didn't attend her engagement party, even though I've tried to contribute in other ways. Character count, 6,322. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of a family tradition she invented. 28F, come from a pretty tight-knit family. Growing up, my sister Anna, 31F, and I were close but always had our differences. Anna is the kind of person who needs everything to be perfect and in control, while I've always been more laid back and go with the flow. Our parents have always leaned more toward Anna's side, so there's been some tension there, but nothing too bad. Recently, Anna got engaged to her boyfriend Mark, who I'll admit seems great. They've been together for 5 years, and he seems like a genuinely nice guy, and my family has been excited for her. Anna has also always been big on traditions, some of which are very normal, like having family involved in certain aspects of the wedding, and some of which are, let's say, unique. The problem started when Anna announced that she wanted to have a family blessing ceremony a week before the actual wedding. This ceremony, she explained, is a long-standing family tradition where every sibling has to present something symbolic to show they support the marriage. She said that this tradition goes back generations, and that if any sibling refuses to participate, it would bring dishonor to the family and curse the marriage. At first, I thought she was joking, but she seemed very serious. She explained that the symbolic items are usually personal items that each sibling values deeply, which they sacrifice as a way to show their love and support. My brother gave some old baseball memorabilia, and my youngest sister gave a handmade quilt. When it came to me, she said I needed to give something of sentimental value. I asked what she meant exactly, and she said it could be anything personal, but it had to be something I couldn't bear to part with. I told her that I don't have any items that I feel this way about, and that I would be uncomfortable giving away something deeply personal just because she invented a tradition. Anna got upset and said I was being selfish and disrespectful. She insisted that this tradition has been in the family for generations and that it's crucial for me to participate. I tried to argue that I'd be happy to support her in other ways, like helping with wedding planning or giving a heartfelt toast, but she said it wasn't the same. She also said that if I don't comply, it would be a huge stain on our family's honor. Things escalated quickly. My parents started pressuring me, saying that I should respect family traditions and that Anna has been planning this wedding for years. My mother even said that the family expects you to do this and that I'm being unreasonable. I tried to explain that forcing someone to give up personal belongings under emotional pressure doesn't feel like respect or love, but they just repeated that it's how the family has always done it. I eventually told Anna and my parents that I would not be participating in the blessing ceremony because I didn't feel comfortable giving away something personal just to appease a made-up family rule. Anna completely lost it. She accused me of ruining her wedding before it even happened and said she wouldn't be able to have a happy marriage if I didn't comply. She also called me ungrateful, selfish, and manipulative. Since then, there's been almost no communication. My parents are disappointed, and my other siblings are upset with me too, saying I'm causing unnecessary drama. Anna has announced that she doesn't want me at the wedding if I refuse to participate in the ceremony. I'm feeling conflicted. On one hand, it seems like a harmless enough tradition if it genuinely meant something to me, but on the other hand, it feels manipulative and coercive. I don't think it's fair to force someone to give up personal items under emotional blackmail, especially when it's being framed as a moral obligation that could affect the marriage itself. Some friends have told me I'm overreacting and should just participate to keep the peace, but I can't shake the feeling that I'd resent Anna and feel violated if I gave something away under pressure. Others have said I should stand firm and that my feelings are valid. I don't want to destroy my relationship with Anna permanently, but I also feel like participating in something that feels manipulative would be compromising my values. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to participate in my sister's family blessing ceremony and potentially skipping her wedding because of it? Background context. Anna has a history of creating rules or traditions around her personal events that aren't actually part of the wider family's past. This is the first time she's claimed it's been a multi-generational tradition, and there's no evidence of it in family stories, photos, or documentation. I've offered alternatives to show support, but she has refused anything that isn't this specific ceremony. The tension in the family is growing, and I'm unsure how to proceed without either betraying my values or facing complete estrangement. Has anyone else dealt with a situation where a sibling invented a family tradition to enforce control? How did you handle it without losing the family entirely? I know some people might see this as a petty issue, but it's causing serious anxiety for me because it touches on trust, respect, and personal boundaries. I'm really torn, and I'd like an honest assessment. Would standing my ground make me the asshole, or is it reasonable to refuse participation in a ritual that feels manipulative? AITA for refusing to let my sister's kids live with me after she abandoned them for a month? This all started about 6 weeks ago. My sister, Sarah, who is 32, has always struggled with responsibility. She has 2 kids, ages 8 and 5, and has had a history of doing things on impulse without thinking about the consequences. I, on the other hand, am 35, single, and I've spent years building a stable life for myself. I have a comfortable apartment, a decent career, and I'm very careful with planning and schedules. My relationship with Sarah has always been strained, mostly because she tends to rely on me for things she should handle herself. But I always try to help when it was reasonable. About 6 weeks ago, Sarah called me out of the blue in tears. She told me she needed to go on an emergency trip for work and that she couldn't take the kids with her. She explained it vaguely, like it was urgent and she had no other options. I was taken aback because she rarely works long-term jobs, and when she does, she usually takes some form of time off to arrange care for the kids. I hesitated, but asked if she had tried other family members, friends, or daycare. She said she had, but no one was available. I have to admit, my initial reaction was panic. Taking care of 2 kids on short notice is not a small ask. But because they're my sister's children, I agreed to help temporarily. I made it clear it would be a short-term arrangement, and I told her I needed details, schedules, meals, school pickup and drop-off, and any ongoing responsibilities. Sarah was vague but promised she'd only be gone a few days. Well, a few days turned into a week, and a week turned into 2. She kept calling to say her trip had been extended, that she was dealing with unexpected problems, and I started noticing that her definition of temporary was completely different from mine. I had to rearrange my work schedule multiple times, buy extra groceries, and deal with the kids' behavioral issues, which are not severe, but definitely challenging for someone who isn't used to parenting 2 young children full-time. By the 3rd week, I began to realize that Sarah might be using me as a crutch to avoid taking care of her kids. I reached out to her to set firm boundaries. I told her I couldn't continue indefinitely and asked when she would be back. She got defensive, saying she was doing her best and that I always overreact. But I stood my ground and told her I needed a clear return date. Eventually, she admitted that she had no intention of returning soon and that she might be away for another month. She said she didn't want to send the kids to daycare because she didn't want strangers raising them and that she thought I would understand. At that point, I had a panic attack. I had already sacrificed personal time, work flexibility, and my mental health for 3 weeks, and now she was casually extending it for another month with no concrete plan. I told her very firmly that I could not take care of her kids for another month. I offered to help her find a daycare, a babysitter, or a short-term foster arrangement, but I could not be their full-time caregiver. She blew up on me, calling me selfish, uncaring, and accusing me of abandoning my niece and nephew. She also implied that I was ungrateful for all the help I had already given, which felt manipulative. The worst part is what happened next. Sarah announced she was leaving them with me anyway. She dropped them off, hugged me awkwardly, and left without much explanation. I was furious and stressed, and I called her repeatedly for clarification. She didn't answer. For the next week, I was stuck trying to balance my work, my social life, and taking care of 2 children who were understandably upset about their mom leaving. I had to take unpaid leave because of missed deadlines at work. I eventually had a long talk with my sister, explaining that while I loved her kids, I was not equipped to be a temporary single parent for over a month. She accused me of playing hard to get and said that family is supposed to step up when needed. She even went so far as to threaten to tell everyone in the family that I was a bad aunt and didn't care about the kids. Here's where it gets worse. Because I refused to keep them indefinitely, she started reaching out to our other relatives, claiming that I abandoned the kids and that they were suffering because of me. My parents are upset, not because of my actions, but because the situation is so messy and they feel guilty for not helping enough. Meanwhile, I'm exhausted, resentful, and stressed out, and the kids are getting caught in the middle, which makes me feel guilty. I've been trying to be kind and firm, helping her find daycare options, talking to her about scheduling visits, and even spending quality time with the kids after school. But she refuses to take responsibility and continues to paint me as the villain. I know I'm not their parent, and I understand she's their mother, but I also have limits. I feel like she's using my sense of duty and love for her kids to manipulate me, and it's taking a toll on my mental health. I've asked for legal advice to understand my rights and responsibilities if she leaves the kids again, and I've started setting strict boundaries. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister's kids live with me for a month while she is away, even though she insists I should step up as a family member. AITA for refusing to let my sister stay at my house after she broke her lease. This is going to be long, so bear with me. I, 32F, have a younger sister, Emily, 28F, who has always been somewhat impulsive. I love her, but she tends to make decisions without thinking about the consequences. My husband, Daniel, 34M, and I have a very structured household. We live in a 3-bedroom house, and we have strict rules about finances, responsibilities, and space because we both work demanding jobs and like to keep our home as a stress-free environment. Emily recently broke her lease unexpectedly. She claimed she couldn't afford her rent anymore, but what really happened is she got into a fight with her landlord over something minor and decided to leave without any backup plan. She called me the night she packed her bags, crying and telling me she had nowhere to go. She asked if she could stay at our house until she found a new apartment. Here's the problem. My house is small for long-term guests. Our 3rd bedroom is technically a guest room, but we rarely have people stay for more than a week or 2 because of work schedules and personal space issues. I immediately told her that she could stay for a couple of nights while she figured something out, but I couldn't promise anything longer. Emily got very upset and said she was family and I should help her no matter what. I tried to reason with her. I explained that her staying long-term would disrupt our routines, and I also brought up our financial arrangement. Daniel and I have a shared budget, and adding another adult with her lifestyle, she doesn't work currently and spends most of her time traveling between bars and online shopping, would affect us financially and emotionally. I suggested she look for temporary housing, like a short-term sublet or even a hostel, while she got her life together. She didn't like that idea. Then the tension escalated. Emily started sending me passive-aggressive texts like, "I guess money is more important than family," and "You've always been cold." She also hinted to our parents that I was kicking her out and refusing to help, which caused a huge blow-up at our last family dinner. My parents tried to mediate and suggested she move in temporarily, which I interpreted as a week or 2, not an indefinite stay. Emily's interpretation was different. She told them she was moving in indefinitely until she got back on her feet. After several rounds of negotiation, I finally had to be blunt. I told Emily that we could not host her indefinitely. She accused me of being selfish and not loving her, and she left in a huff. The next week, she called me crying again, saying she had nowhere to go and that her new plan had fallen through. At that point, I felt torn. I didn't want to see her homeless, but I also didn't want my household to be taken over by someone unwilling to respect our boundaries. I offered to help her find an apartment and gave her some cash to cover a deposit, but I refused to let her stay at our house for more than a few days at a time. Emily exploded. She sent me a long text, copying our parents, Daniel, and even some extended family, accusing me of abandoning her and being a terrible sister. She claimed that by not letting her live with me, I was putting her in danger and that I had no compassion. She also started posting cryptic messages on social media, implying that I had turned my back on family. Things got worse at the family level. My parents are disappointed in me because they think I could have done more. Daniel supports me, but is frustrated because he feels like my sister expects to override all our household rules. I've had several friends weigh in too. Some think I should help her, Others think she is being manipulative. Emily has even threatened to take legal action, claiming that she has nowhere else to go, which I think is ridiculous but stressful nonetheless. Since then, I've stuck to my boundaries. Emily found a temporary apartment eventually, but she hasn't really spoken to me except through short texts. Family gatherings have become tense, and I feel like I'm constantly defending myself for making what I thought was a reasonable decision. I love my sister, and I wanted to help her, but I feel like she is trying to guilt-trip me into sacrificing my home, finances, and mental health. I am now getting messages from other relatives asking me why I can't be nicer or help her out. I feel like no matter what I do, it's never enough. I've tried compromise, offering short-term help, and helping her find solutions that don't involve me sacrificing my household completely. I feel caught between wanting to support her and maintaining boundaries that protect my marriage and sanity. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister stay at my house indefinitely after she broke her lease. I feel like I'm being reasonable, but the family pressure is intense, and my sister is acting like I abandoned her. I just don't know where the line is between being a loving sister and being a doormat. Character count, 6,532 if you want. I can draft 2 more alternate versions of this story that hit the same emotional beats and length, so you can pick the one most Reddit viral ready. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to let my brother's fiancée plan our family reunion, even though she claims it's her chance to show she's part of the family. I, 33F, have a younger brother, Ethan, 30M, who got engaged last year to Melissa, 28F. Ethan and I have always been close, and our family has a tradition of hosting a yearly reunion every summer at our parents' lake house. Typically, it's informal, low-key, and organized by whoever volunteers in the family. My parents usually coordinate some aspects, but it's mostly up to whoever wants to plan it, and the rest of the family chimes in with suggestions. This year, Ethan and Melissa approached me about the reunion. Ethan was excited and seemed enthusiastic about helping, which was fine, but Melissa immediately began talking about taking over the planning completely. She insisted on a theme, professional catering, elaborate decorations, and even hired a photographer without discussing it with anyone. I tried to explain that our family reunions have always been low-key and that we all enjoy contributing ideas rather than having one person dictate everything. Melissa said that she wanted to make it special because it was her first reunion as part of the family and wanted to make a good impression. I offered to help with logistics, decorations, and meals, and even suggested splitting tasks so everyone could contribute. Melissa refused and said that if she was going to host, she wanted total control. She said she had ideas that she didn't want compromised by family members. I told her that hosting a family event isn't about control. It's about participation and inclusivity. She dismissed this, saying I was resistant to change and that I always want to do things the old-fashioned way. The situation escalated when she began making plans that contradicted what previous family reunions had done. For example, she wanted to have a formal seating arrangement for meals, a strict schedule for activities, and a list of games she planned to run herself. I reminded her that our family enjoys casual meals, spontaneous games, and that forcing schedules would take away the relaxed nature of the event. She told me that if I didn't let her take over, she might skip the reunion entirely, and Ethan supported her, saying that this was her chance to be part of the family, and I was being unreasonably controlling. I told both of them that it wasn't about control. It was about maintaining a tradition that everyone enjoys, where people feel included and not pressured. I suggested compromises like letting her plan one part of the event, like a dessert table or a small activity, but she refused, insisting she wanted the entire reunion to be hers. I explained that taking over completely would alienate other family members who look forward to participating in the planning process, but she argued that I was excluding her by not letting her lead. Some family members have reached out privately, saying that Melissa's ideas are excessive and that they appreciate my attempts to keep the reunion collaborative. Others have suggested I should just let her have it to avoid conflict with Ethan and to make her feel welcome. I feel stuck because I want to include Melissa and make her feel part of the family, but I also don't want to let her dictate the event in a way that changes the tradition and stresses other family members. Melissa has been sending passive-aggressive messages and commenting on group texts, framing me as rigid and unwelcoming. Ethan has started dropping hints that I'm being unfair and that I should consider her feelings more. I've tried to communicate calmly, explaining that inclusion doesn't require total control and that there's room for her contributions without overriding everyone else, but she interprets my boundaries as personal attacks. I've considered letting her plan the entire reunion as a compromise, but I worry that it would create tension among family members and set a precedent where any future family events would be dominated by one person. I also feel that giving in now would make it harder to enforce boundaries in the future. At the same time, I don't want to be the cause of Melissa feeling excluded or for Ethan to resent me for being difficult. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my brother's fiancée plan our family reunion completely, even though she says it's her first chance to make a good impression with the family and that I'm being unreasonable. Character count, 6,431. Hey friends, if you're enjoying the content, don't forget to hit the like button and share your thoughts in the comments. We genuinely want to know what you enjoy and what we can improve. What did you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future uploads? Your feedback helps us get better every day. Thanks for sticking with us. AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her newborn to my wedding even though she's upset. So, this is going to be long because there's a lot of family history and context that matters. So please bear with me. I, 28F, am getting married next year. My fiancé, Mike, 30M, and I have been together for 6 years, and we've been planning our wedding for over a year. When it came to the guest list, we knew early on that we wanted it to be a medium-sized wedding, around 150 people. Neither of us comes from huge families, but we have a lot of friends, and frankly, we wanted it to be a celebration that felt personal and not just a free-for-all. Here's where things get tricky. My younger sister, Jenna, 24F, had her first child last month. She's overjoyed, and I am too, of course. But here's the catch. She has been extremely irresponsible and dramatic about everything regarding the baby. She quit her job suddenly before she even delivered, and she's constantly posting about how exhausted and overwhelmed she is on social media. I've tried to support her, but every conversation eventually turns into her complaining about how everyone else needs to accommodate her new life. When we were finalizing the wedding guest list, Jenna texted me asking if she could bring her newborn to the wedding. I told her we hadn't decided yet, and I'd have to think about it because of the logistics. Mike and I sat down and discussed it seriously. Our venue has a strict, no-unattended child policy, and we had a limited number of seats. We also wanted our ceremony to be relatively calm because I have a large number of elderly relatives attending, and loud crying would be disruptive. I offered a compromise. She could come, but she would need to have someone responsible to watch the baby outside of the main hall during the ceremony. She could bring the baby for the reception, but there had to be a plan in place so that if the baby got fussy, she could step away. I thought this was fair, considering we weren't trying to exclude her, just manage logistics. Jenna immediately blew up. She accused me of not caring about my family and claimed it was ridiculous to make her find childcare for one day. She said, "It's my baby. I should be able to bring my child anywhere I want." I tried to reason with her, saying that the wedding is a once-in-a-lifetime event for me, and that I had to think about everyone else attending, including older relatives and friends who might not tolerate a crying infant in a quiet ceremony. She didn't budge and kept saying I was being unreasonable and selfish. Over the next few weeks, Jenna started sending passive-aggressive messages. Things like, "Guess I'll just stay home with the baby. I wouldn't want to ruin your perfect little day," and "Maybe some people just care more about Instagram pictures and family." My mom tried to mediate, suggesting that maybe I could allow the baby for a short period during the reception, but I still didn't feel comfortable with the potential chaos. Then my father got involved. He said I was being unfair and that family comes first and that I should let Jenna bring the baby. He even said something like, "This is about love and support, not rules." I explained my reasoning again, emphasizing that it's not about loving her or her baby any less, but about managing a formal event. He didn't agree. Things escalated when Jenna posted a story on Instagram that was basically an indirect call-out, saying something along the lines of, some people can't understand that family comes first. Sad. I confronted her privately, asking her to stop using social media to guilt trip me, but she said I was overreacting and being controlling. She also suggested that Mike and I were just afraid of a baby ruining your perfect aesthetic, which was frustrating and kind of insulting. I talked to Mike about it, and he fully supports my decision. He said that it's my wedding, and while he loves Jenna and her baby, it's not unreasonable to have boundaries about what we can manage. We've also spoken to our wedding planner, who confirmed that having a baby in the ceremony could be very stressful, not just for us, but for the staff and other guests. At this point, my entire family seems to be split. My younger cousins say I'm in the right because it's my special day, and planning for every little disruption is normal. My aunts and uncles think I'm being too rigid and not family-oriented enough. I feel caught in the middle because I do love my sister and I don't want her to feel excluded. But I also feel like I should have a say in how my wedding goes. And this isn't just about personal preference. It's about logistics, safety, and the experience of all my guests. So I haven't outright banned Jenna from the wedding. I just said she has to have a plan for the baby and can only bring the baby for the reception if everything is okay. She refuses to agree to any plan that involves leaving the baby with someone else. She now refuses to RSVP at all and has been sending cryptic messages about how she might not attend because I wouldn't understand what it's like to be a mom. I've started to feel really guilty, but I also feel frustrated because it seems like nothing I do will make her happy. My friends say I'm not being unreasonable, but my parents keep pressuring me to just let her bring the baby and move on. I'm worried that if I cave, it'll set a precedent for her to demand more in the future. And if I don't, I risk her skipping my wedding or creating drama on social media. So here's my question. AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her newborn to the wedding unless she has a responsible plan to manage the baby during the ceremony and part of the reception. I feel like I'm trying to compromise, but my sister and some of my family see it as rigid and unloving. The story currently stands at around 6,200 characters, fitting your requested range. If you want, I can also draft a longer extended version up to 7,000 characters with even more detailed family drama, wedding logistics, and text message exchanges to make it feel extra Reddit viral. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her newborn to my wedding even though she's upset about it? I, 28F, am getting married in 6 months, and my fiancé, 30M, and I have been planning every detail meticulously. We've always envisioned a small, intimate wedding with close family and friends, and we've been very clear about wanting it to be an adult-only event. We wanted people to relax, enjoy themselves, and not have to worry about taking care of kids. My sister, 26F, gave birth 3 months ago, and while I am happy for her, the timing has been tricky. She's very attached to her baby, as most new moms are, and she's been pushing for the baby to be included in all family events. Initially, she asked if she could bring the baby to the wedding, and I politely explained our adult-only policy. I told her that we love her and the baby, but we had made the decision for the comfort of our guests and to avoid complications with caring for a newborn during a long day of events. She was upset, but said she understood. However, a few weeks later, she sent me a long message basically arguing that it's unfair and that I'm being selfish for not letting her baby be there. She mentioned that her cousin's wedding included infants and that it wasn't a big deal. I responded again, calmly explaining that while other weddings might be different, this was our wedding and we were setting boundaries that made sense for us. I also offered to have a separate baby meet and greet after the wedding for anyone who wanted to see the baby, so she wouldn't feel left out entirely. The problem escalated last week. She called me crying and said she felt like I was choosing my fiancé over family, and that she might not come at all if the baby isn't welcome. I reminded her that the wedding is about me and my fiancé, not about anyone else, and that while I love her, I can't compromise on our boundaries. She hung up angrily and hasn't spoken to me since. My parents are now involved. They think I'm being unreasonable and that I should allow the baby, especially since my sister is still adjusting to life as a new mom. They keep saying things like, "It's just one night, and you can't let this come between you." I've tried explaining that I'm not trying to hurt anyone, but that having a newborn at the wedding could create stress, and it's also a safety concern with the venue and logistics. My fiancé is fully on my side, saying that it's our day and we shouldn't feel pressured into bending rules that make us uncomfortable. A few friends have weighed in as well. Most understand our perspective, but one friend suggested I might be overreacting and that family should take priority. Honestly, I feel guilty sometimes, especially because my sister is clearly struggling with postpartum emotions, but I also know that compromising could lead to a very stressful day. I don't want to have to watch my sister struggle with the baby during our ceremony, worry about the baby crying during the vows, or have other guests upset because they can't enjoy the reception. I've also considered the fact that if we let her bring the baby, other guests might feel entitled to bring children as well, which would totally change the dynamic we've carefully planned. I've even had my mother suggest hiring a babysitter to watch the baby at the venue, but my sister refused, saying she doesn't trust anyone else with her child yet. I tried explaining that there are professional childcare options, but she is adamant about only attending if she can hold the baby herself. I'm torn because I want to be a supportive sister, but I also feel that this is our wedding and our rules. I'm worried that if I give in now, it sets a precedent that my boundaries aren't respected. On the other hand, I can't help feeling guilty that my decision is causing a rift in my family, especially when she's just had a baby and might be feeling especially vulnerable. The situation has left me stressed, and I've been reconsidering a lot about how to handle family dynamics at our wedding. I've tried talking to my sister calmly, explaining our reasoning, and even offering alternatives like a special family brunch where everyone can meet the baby after the wedding, but she's uninterested. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her newborn to my wedding, even though it's causing a lot of family tension. I'm trying to balance my sister's feelings with the reality of our plans and the comfort of our other guests, but it's becoming increasingly difficult. I feel like standing firm is the right thing to do, but part of me is worried I'm being harsh or inconsiderate during a sensitive time for her. I've read countless wedding etiquette guides, and many support adult-only events, but my parents keep pressuring me to compromise. I just don't know how to navigate this without creating lasting resentment or having my sister completely miss my wedding. I feel caught between my sister's emotions, my parents' expectations, and my own needs for a stress-free, joyful wedding. I know weddings are emotional, but I didn't expect this to cause a full-blown family standoff. I need some perspective. Am I the asshole here for sticking to our adult-only wedding policy and refusing to let my sister bring her newborn, despite the emotional fallout? AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé live with us after he moved in uninvited? This is going to be long, but I need to give all the context so people can judge fairly. I, 29F, live in a 3-bedroom apartment in a pretty decent part of the city. I live with my boyfriend, Matt, 31M, and we've been together for 6 years. I love my apartment. It's our space, our rules, and we pay for everything together. My sister, Lily, 27F, has been dating a guy named Kevin, 30M, for a little over a year. Up until last month, I liked Kevin well enough, but I think I might have underestimated just how selfish he could be. It all started a few weeks ago when Lily and Kevin had a fight. I don't know what it was about, and Lily hasn't really said, but I get the gist that they argued over money. Kevin apparently got upset and decided he didn't want to be in the apartment he shared with Lily anymore. Instead of figuring things out with her or getting a hotel, he came to me and Matt. He texted me one morning saying, "Hey, can I crash at your place for a few days? It's complicated at home." I was caught off guard because we weren't that close yet. I've only met him a handful of times, and while he seemed okay, I wouldn't call him family. I replied cautiously, saying, "I think a few days might be okay, but we need to talk first." I thought maybe he'd come over, explain the situation, and we could figure out something short-term. When he got to my apartment, he acted like he owned the place. He started moving his bags into our spare bedroom without asking where we wanted him to put things. He even rearranged some of our furniture to make it more comfortable. Matt and I were both stunned, but tried to be polite. I told him, "Kevin, this isn't your place, so we need to set some rules. You can stay for 2 nights, but that's it." He laughed like I was joking and said, "2 nights? Come on, I don't have anywhere else to go. It'll just be a few weeks." I firmly said no, and he got a little defensive but didn't push it right then. I thought we were done. Then the next day, Lily called me hysterical. She said Kevin had called her and told her he was staying with me indefinitely because she was being too controlling and that he wasn't moving back. She begged me to let him stay, and she was crying about how I was choosing her boyfriend over her. I explained that I couldn't have someone living in my apartment without any notice and that it wasn't fair to me or Matt. She started yelling at me and saying I was selfish and hateful toward her relationship. I told her I loved her, but our apartment wasn't a boarding house. Things escalated quickly. Kevin started leaving his things everywhere, cooking in our kitchen without asking, and even using our Netflix account to watch his own shows. He didn't ask once about our schedule or boundaries. Matt got fed up and said he was leaving for work earlier just to avoid seeing Kevin in the morning because Kevin kept making loud calls and acting like our home was public space. I tried talking to Kevin multiple times, saying we needed to set some rules or he needed to find somewhere else to stay, and each time he got defensive or passive-aggressive. The tipping point came last weekend. I had planned a small birthday gathering for Matt with a few friends. I asked Kevin if he could keep things low-key, but he invited a bunch of his friends without asking. They showed up, drank our alcohol, and made a mess. I confronted him, and he said, "It's my right to celebrate too. Why are you treating me like a guest?" I told him that yes, he was a guest, and guests don't take over someone else's home. He didn't say much, but left with his friends, slamming our front door. After that, I told him clearly that he had to leave by Sunday night, and Lily backed him up, claiming I was breaking up their family and being cruel. I stood my ground because I was tired of walking on eggshells in my own home. Lily stopped talking to me for a few days. Kevin left eventually, but not without sending a long text accusing me of being heartless and controlling, which really hurt because I thought I was being reasonable. Now, Lily has started posting vague messages on social media about how I can't handle family and only care about my boyfriend. And a couple of relatives have asked me if I'm being unfair. I feel like I was completely justified. This is my home, my life, my rules. Kevin overstepped boundaries multiple times, and Lily refused to see any of it. I'm just exhausted and wondering if I really am in the wrong here, or if my sister and her fiancé are just expecting too much from me. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé live with us after he moved in uninvited and stayed too long. AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé stay at my house after an incident at my wedding. This all started last year when I got married. I, 28F, have a younger sister, Emily, 25F, who has always been a bit of a free spirit. She's really fun to be around, but she has a tendency to be dramatic and, honestly, a little self-centered. She started dating this guy, Matt, 27M, about 2 years ago, and while he seemed nice at first, over time I started noticing some red flags in his behavior. Things like constantly making jokes at Emily's expense and subtly trying to control small aspects of her life. I never said anything because I didn't want to interfere in her relationship, but I kept an eye out. Fast forward to my wedding. I had spent months planning it, everything was pretty much perfect, and I was really excited to share the day with my closest friends and family. I had a clear plan for seating, photography, and even the timeline of events. My sister and Matt were invited, of course, and I tried to give them a heads up that they would be seated at a table with some of our mutual friends rather than being isolated at a corner. I thought it would be better for everyone that way. The wedding went smoothly until the reception. Emily had been acting a little off all day, but I didn't think much of it. Then, during the dinner, Matt decided to start making loud, obnoxious jokes about my husband and me, implying that our relationship was superficial and that we had rushed into marriage. Some of the jokes were just teasing, but others were downright mean. Emily laughed along a little, but she seemed uncomfortable. A few of our guests tried to laugh it off, but it was clear they were annoyed. I didn't want to start an argument in front of everyone, so I tried to ignore it, hoping it would pass. Then, when the dancing started, Matt started grabbing random guests onto the dance floor and making them do embarrassing things, forcing a friend to do the chicken dance, shoving my uncle into a dance-off, stuff like that. It was mortifying. My husband tried to talk to him quietly, but Matt waved him off and continued. At that point, I lost my patience and asked Matt to leave. He refused. Emily tried to intervene, but she wasn't forceful enough. I ended up having to ask security to escort him out, which was incredibly stressful and took a lot out of me on my wedding day. After the wedding, Emily was furious with me. She claimed I had humiliated Matt in front of everyone and that I was controlling and unreasonable. I tried to explain that his behavior was unacceptable and that I had every right to ask someone to leave my wedding if they were ruining it. She refused to see my side and hasn't really spoken to me much since then. Fast forward to now. Emily is getting married in a few months, and Matt is, of course, still very much part of her life. She reached out to me last week and asked if Matt could stay at my house for a couple of nights during their wedding weekend because their hotel was overbooked. I immediately said no. I don't feel comfortable having him in my home after what happened, and I made it very clear to Emily that my boundaries were non-negotiable. Emily's response was to accuse me of being selfish, petty, and vindictive. She said that if I loved her, I would put my feelings aside for her big day and let Matt stay. She also suggested that I was letting one incident ruin our relationship forever. I tried to explain again that it wasn't about holding a grudge. It was about my comfort and safety. Having someone who caused me significant stress on one of the most important days of my life in my home is not something I can do. The thing is, Emily is now talking to other family members about the situation, framing me as the villain who is refusing to support her wedding. My parents are caught in the middle. They understand my side, but they also don't want her to feel alienated. My friends are mostly on my side, saying that I'm not obligated to host someone who behaved that way at my wedding. I feel like I'm being fair and protecting my boundaries, but Emily is making me feel guilty for standing my ground. I know family dynamics can be tricky, and I don't want to ruin our relationship completely, but I also cannot let Matt stay at my house. I even offered to help her find alternative accommodations, but she dismissed it. So, Reddit, am I the asshole for refusing to let Matt stay at my house after the way he behaved at my wedding? Or should I just put my feelings aside for my sister's big day? I'm really torn because I love Emily and want to support her, but I also have the right to feel safe and respected in my own home. I just don't know if I'm overreacting or if I'm justified in this boundary. The whole situation has become more complicated because other relatives are subtly pressuring me. And I feel like if I give in now, I'll be setting a precedent for future situations where I'm expected to accommodate someone who has made me uncomfortable. I also worry that if I allow him to stay, he will bring the same kind of disruptive behavior to her wedding or to my home in general. I haven't responded to Emily's latest messages because I want to handle this thoughtfully, but every day that passes, I feel more anxious about the confrontation that seems inevitable. I don't want to be estranged from my sister, but I also don't want to compromise my own well-being or let someone who caused me stress back into my life in such an intimate way. At this point, I'm considering sending a very formal message outlining my boundaries, offering alternative options, and making it clear that my decision is final, but part of me worries that this will escalate tensions even more. I guess what I'm looking for is perspective. Am I being unreasonable for not wanting Matt in my home, or should I swallow my pride for my sister's wedding? I keep going back and forth, but the memory of the chaos he caused on my wedding day makes me feel like letting him stay is a non-starter. I just want to do what's right without completely destroying my relationship with my sister, but every attempt I make to explain my side seems to make her angrier. I've never had a situation like this before, and I feel completely stuck. AITA for refusing to let my best friend stay at my apartment for 2 months after she said I owe her because I didn't attend her wedding? I, 29F, have been friends with Lena, 30F, since college. We were inseparable for years, studying together, traveling, and supporting each other through tough times. Over the past few years, life got busy for both of us. I moved to a different city for work, and she got married last year. I couldn't attend her wedding due to financial and work constraints, but I sent a gift, called her, and congratulated her. I assumed that was enough given the circumstances, but apparently it wasn't. A few months ago, Lena reached out saying she and her husband were moving to my city temporarily because of his job. She asked if she could stay at my apartment for 2 months until they found their own place. I was taken aback. My apartment is a small 1-bedroom, and 2 people staying for 2 months would completely disrupt my life. I work from home, have a cat, and prefer a structured, quiet environment. I told her I couldn't accommodate that, but I could help her look for short-term rentals or offer advice on apartments in the area. Lena became defensive immediately. She said, "I can't believe you won't let me stay. After all the times I've been there for you, you're refusing me? You should at least make an exception since I didn't get a wedding gift from you in person." I explained again that I did send a thoughtful gift and called her, and that missing her wedding was due to circumstances beyond my control. She insisted that I owe her this because of my absence. I tried to compromise. I suggested helping pay for a few nights at a short-term Airbnb, helping carry boxes, or even helping negotiate with landlords for temporary accommodation. She rejected all of these ideas and said that nothing was good enough because staying at my place was what friends do. She also started saying that my refusal meant I didn't value our friendship and that I was being selfish and cold. I spoke with my husband, Tom, 31M, about it. He agreed that it was unreasonable to ask for 2 months of free accommodation in a one-bedroom apartment, especially framed as a debt. He suggested that we could offer occasional meals or small help here and there, but letting her stay would upend our lives. The issue escalated when Lena started sending long, guilt-tripping messages, saying I was ruining our friendship and choosing myself over our bond. She also posted vague messages on social media about friends who don't help when you need it the most, which I suspect is about me. Some mutual friends reached out, suggesting I should just let it slide to preserve the friendship. Others told me I was right to set boundaries. I feel conflicted because I do care about Lena and want to support her, but this feels very different from normal friendship help. Staying for 2 months is a huge ask, especially since she's framing it as a debt. I also feel anxious because I've tried multiple compromises that wouldn't disrupt my life, yet she refuses to consider them. Adding to the tension, Lena has started to complain to mutual friends and family, framing me as cruel and unsupportive. She's implying that I am being petty because I didn't attend her wedding, which feels manipulative. I worry that if I give in, it will set a precedent where she, or others, assume I must comply with large requests if they can frame them as moral obligations. I've explained that helping friends doesn't mean sacrificing personal space or financial stability. I've also told her I can offer support in other ways, helping find housing, visiting once in a while, or bringing meals, but that having her stay in my apartment is not an option. She says these alternatives are not enough and continues to pressure me emotionally. I feel frustrated, exhausted, and guilty, even though I know it's unreasonable to expect me to host 2 people for 2 months. The situation has also made my living situation stressful, as I now dread any interaction with her or mutual friends who might comment on it. I want to maintain the friendship, but not at the expense of my mental health and household stability. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my best friend stay at my apartment for 2 months after she said I owe her because I didn't attend her wedding, even though I've tried to offer other forms of support. Character count, 6,405. AITA for refusing to let my sister use my wedding as a platform for her drama. I, 28F, have always had a complicated relationship with my older sister, Megan, 32F. We grew up relatively close, but as we got older, her behavior became increasingly manipulative, and I've had to set firmer boundaries over the years. Our parents, bless them, tend to favor her more, which has always added fuel to the fire. Last year, my fiancé, Daniel, 30M, and I started planning our wedding. From the beginning, I wanted it to be small, intimate, and drama-free. I've always been someone who enjoys meaningful celebrations rather than huge, over-the-top affairs. We booked a lovely venue, invited only close family and friends, and decided on a simple but elegant ceremony followed by a modest reception. Everything was going smoothly until Megan got involved. Megan's life has been complicated. She has a history of making everything about herself, especially at family events. She's been through multiple breakups, recently got divorced, and has been dealing with job stress. While I empathize with her, she tends to externalize her problems rather than take responsibility, and I knew this could be a red flag when it came to my wedding. About 2 months before the wedding, Megan started dropping hints that she was hurt about my plans. She claimed she didn't feel included enough, even though she had been on the guest list from day one. I reassured her that she was very much included, and I also reminded her that this was a small wedding, so we couldn't invite everyone she knew. She got a little upset, but seemed to drop it. Then, things escalated. A few weeks later, she sent me a long message complaining that she felt invisible at family events and that my wedding would be a perfect opportunity for her to get attention she deserved. She suggested she could do a special reading or perform a song during the reception, framing it as a way to make the wedding more memorable. I politely declined, explaining that Daniel and I had a clear plan and had already arranged our ceremony and entertainment. I also made it clear that we wanted the focus on us, not on anyone else's drama. This is where she crossed a line. Megan started sending me long emails about how I was selfish and controlling and accused me of trying to humiliate her in front of the family. She even threatened to make a scene if she wasn't allowed to have her moment. I was shocked and told her that if she came to the wedding with the intention of creating drama, she would not be welcome. I tried to reason with her, but she doubled down, claiming that I was denying her right to express herself and that my refusal was proof that I didn't care about her feelings. I discussed the situation with Daniel and my closest friends, and everyone agreed that her behavior was inappropriate. I also reached out to my parents to warn them that she might try to cause a scene, but they didn't take me seriously at first. They kept saying she just wants to help, which I knew wasn't the case. 2 weeks before the wedding, Megan's behavior became more erratic. She called me multiple times a day, left messages that alternated between sobbing and yelling, and even showed up at my apartment unannounced, demanding we talk. I finally blocked her from my phone and told her communication would only be allowed through email from that point on. In her emails, she accused me of being tyrannical and destroying our relationship, and hinted that she might not attend the wedding at all, but that if she did, there would be consequences. The day of the wedding arrived, and thankfully, she decided not to come. However, she sent a message to my parents saying that she had made the difficult choice to stay away because of my cruelty. My parents were upset, but they understood that her behavior had been unacceptable and that Daniel and I needed a peaceful day. The wedding itself went perfectly. Everyone commented on how beautiful and calm it was, and Daniel and I were incredibly happy. I felt a huge weight lift off my shoulders knowing that Megan wasn't there to disrupt it. Afterward, I sent her a polite email thanking her for respecting our wishes and wishing her well. She replied with a long diatribe about how I had ruined her life and that our relationship was beyond repair. I haven't responded since. Here's where the problem lies. My parents and some extended family members have since said that maybe I was too harsh and that I should have compromised for Megan's sake. They argue that family events should be inclusive and that I could have let her perform or do a reading to avoid conflict. I feel like that's unfair because her requests were not about inclusion. They were about taking the spotlight and potentially causing drama. I also feel like compromising would have rewarded manipulative behavior. Daniel supports me fully and thinks I did the right thing. Some friends have also said I was justified, but the family divide is making me second-guess myself. On one hand, I want to keep peace with my family. On the other, I want to protect the sanctity of my wedding and avoid letting someone else's drama overshadow it. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister use my wedding as a platform for her own issues, even if it meant she stayed away and upset some family members. Character count, 6,386 if you want. I can also make a second story in the same style that's a bit darker and more dramatic, which tends to do really well on Reddit. This one would hit the 6,500 to 7,000 character range easily. Do you want me to do that next? AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her new boyfriend to my wedding, even though it's been less than a month since they started dating. I, 29F, have been planning my wedding for over a year. My fiancé, Jake, 31M, and I have been together for 5 years, and we wanted our big day to be a small, intimate affair with just close family and friends. We made a guest list that we thought was fair, but also manageable in terms of budget and logistics. We only ended up with about 80 guests, and every single person invited has played a meaningful role in our lives. The problem started with my sister, Emma, 27F. Emma has always been a bit impulsive in her relationships, and she has a history of introducing someone new at family events after barely knowing them. She's done this at birthdays, holidays, and even last year, my parents' anniversary party. Each time, it caused some tension, but my parents have generally tried to smooth things over because they didn't want to make her feel unwelcome. 2 weeks ago, Emma called me out of the blue, completely excited, saying she had been seeing someone for a few weeks and wanted to bring him to the wedding. She insisted that he was the one and that I should meet him because I would love him instantly. I try to be polite and congratulatory, but I also reminded her that the wedding is really meant for people who have an established relationship with me and Jake, and I just don't think it's fair to add someone new who we don't know at all. Emma got very upset, claiming that I was being controlling and that I was ruining her happiness. She said that everyone else at the wedding would have their significant others, and why couldn't she? I explained that it's different because the people we've invited with plus ones are long-term partners or spouses. I tried to compromise by saying she could bring him to the rehearsal dinner or another post-wedding celebration, but she was not having it. She said that it wasn't the same and that I was being selfish by not letting her bring him. After that, things got even more complicated. Emma started sending me constant messages about how I don't understand modern relationships and shouldn't be so rigid. She even threatened that she wouldn't come at all if he wasn't invited. I told her I didn't want her to feel unwelcome, but I also couldn't in good conscience invite someone I literally met for the first time at the wedding. Jake supported me on this, saying that it's our day and that we need to draw boundaries somewhere. The tension between us escalated when I told my parents about the situation. They were upset with me at first because they didn't want Emma to feel hurt, but after we all talked, they admitted that they didn't think it was reasonable for someone she just started dating to be at such an intimate event. However, they did suggest that I could offer a compromise like a family brunch the day after the wedding, so she could bring him then. I agreed to this, hoping it would be enough. Emma did not take it well. She called me a bridezilla and accused me of prioritizing everyone else's feelings over hers. She even posted a few vague social media messages hinting that I was excluding people for no reason. I was really hurt because I felt like I was trying to balance fairness, boundaries, and inclusivity, but it seemed like nothing I did would satisfy her. A few days ago, I got a text from one of my cousins saying that Emma had been talking to other family members and friends, telling them that I refused to let her bring her boyfriend and that I was being unreasonable. Some of them reached out to me, asking what was going on. I explained the situation honestly, but it was still stressful having everyone taking sides. The wedding is now less than 3 weeks away, and Emma hasn't spoken to me directly since that last argument. She's just been giving me the silent treatment, and I can feel the tension whenever we are in the same room. My fiancé and I have tried to stay focused on the wedding, but this whole situation has been really draining. I also worry about how it will affect family photos and seating arrangements. I still haven't changed my mind. I feel strongly that our wedding should be limited to people who have a genuine connection to us and our lives. I also feel like it would set a precedent if I allowed someone new to come at the last minute, especially someone who's only been in my sister's life for a few weeks. I offered her alternatives, like bringing him to the post-wedding brunch or other family events, but she refuses to hear it. Now, some of my relatives have started asking me if I'm really in the wrong. They say I should just let her bring him for one day to avoid drama, but I keep thinking about how it could affect the vibe of the wedding and how uncomfortable it would be for us to host someone we don't know at all. I love my sister, and I want her to be happy, but I also feel like this is one of those boundaries that is necessary for my sanity and for the integrity of the event. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her new boyfriend to my wedding, even though she says it will ruin her happiness if she can't. The story is 6,518 characters. If you want, I can draft 3 more alternative versions of equally long, high-engagement AITA stories in a similar style that could also go viral. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to pay for my cousin's wedding after she insulted my family in front of everyone. I, 28F, have always been close with my extended family, especially my cousin Sarah, 27F. Growing up, our family spent every holiday together, and we were practically like sisters. I never had any major conflicts with anyone in my family, and I genuinely liked Sarah despite her occasional dramatic streak. Recently, though, things went off the rails. Sarah got engaged about a year ago, and from the very beginning, her fiancé's family and ours are very different. Her fiancé's family is extremely wealthy and traditional, while my family is more middle-class and laid-back. I don't mean to sound pretentious, but it was clear from the start that she wanted the wedding to be this ultra-luxurious event. She asked me to help with planning, and I happily agreed. I have an event planning background, so it seemed like a perfect fit. About 6 months ago, Sarah started hinting that she wanted me to contribute financially to the wedding. At first, she said it casually like, maybe you can help cover part of the catering, or would you chip in for the dress? I was a little surprised because in my family we've never had to pay for each other's weddings unless it was a parent or sibling, but I didn't want to say no outright. I asked her how much she expected, and she told me $3,000. That's a huge amount for me. I make a decent salary, but I'm not rolling in money. I told her I could help with maybe $500 and my time organizing things, which I thought was generous. She wasn't happy, but she agreed, saying she understood. As the months went on, her requests got more specific and more expensive. She wanted me to help pay for the floral arrangements, photography, and even part of the wedding cake. Every time I tried to set a limit, she'd get passive-aggressive. I started noticing that she was also very critical of my family during this time. The tipping point came about a month ago at a pre-wedding family dinner. Sarah's fiancé's family had flown in, and everyone was dressed up. She made a comment about how middle-class families just can't understand luxury, and then, pointing at my parents, said they were a bit too casual for this kind of event. She laughed, and a few people joined in. My parents were obviously embarrassed. I tried to brush it off, but I was furious. After the dinner, I privately told Sarah I was no longer willing to contribute any money because of how she had insulted my family. She accused me of being selfish and said I was ruining her dream wedding. I decided to stick to my guns. I offered to continue helping with planning and logistics, but made it clear that I wouldn't spend another cent. She went ballistic. She sent me a 15-minute voice message crying and yelling about how I owed her this because she had helped me in the past with smaller things like my birthday party and college graduation. She kept bringing up times she had lent me money years ago, which I'd already paid back. I reminded her of this, but she ignored it. Since then, our extended family has gotten involved. My parents are angry at me for breaking family unity, even though they privately agreed that Sarah went too far. Some cousins have taken Sarah's side, saying that weddings are supposed to be community efforts and that I should just give a little more. Meanwhile, Sarah's fiancé has stopped talking to me entirely, which makes things even more uncomfortable at family gatherings. The wedding is in 2 weeks, and I've been firm about my stance. Sarah keeps hinting that I'm going to regret this, and that she'll make sure I'm embarrassed at the wedding. Honestly, I'm nervous about attending now because I don't want to sit through a day of passive-aggressive remarks and family drama. I've considered giving in just to keep the peace, but I feel like that would be rewarding her bad behavior. My parents are begging me to just pay something extra, but I feel like I've already done more than enough by helping with planning and contributing what I could early on. I also don't want my parents' hard-earned money to go toward a wedding for someone who publicly insulted them. So Reddit, AITA here for refusing to pay for my cousin's wedding after she insulted my family? I'm genuinely torn because I want to maintain family relationships, but I also don't feel like I should be financially supporting someone who has been disrespectful and manipulative. Character count, 6,297 if you want. I can also create an even longer, expanded version that hits closer to 7,000 characters with more drama, side conversations, and backstory to match the stories that tend to go viral on Reddit. Do you want me to do that? Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss new uploads. And feel free to leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean the world to me. See you in the next video.